Readings of Almighty God's Words. Exposing Antichrists.
Item 8. They would have others submit only to them, not the truth or God. Part 3. Gospel expansion work involves various projects that require people to study and learn different skills and professions. However, some people do not understand God's intention and easily go astray. They only study professional knowledge and skills without accepting an iota of the truth. What kind of person is this?
A person with the disposition of an antichrist who focuses on gifts.
Correct. This is the type of person we are exposing. This type of person has the disposition of an antichrist, and in severe cases, they are an antichrist. They wish to use this opportunity to learn these things, and then become the best of the best among all those who know this profession or skill, to become the most learned and proficient in this area, so that others will rely on them for everything, and listen to them in the place of practicing the truth while they take on a leading role within this group. Therein lies the problem. What kind of people are like this? Those who only seek to study and equip themselves with all sorts of knowledge, learning, and experience, who rely on their caliber, talents, and gifts to do everything. Sooner or later, they will all walk such a path. This is inevitable. This is the path of Paul. Regardless of the area or field you are in, having a little more knowledge, experience, or lessons learned than others is not sufficient to demonstrate that you understand the truth or have entered the truth reality. And it certainly does not mean you have obtained the truth. So, what does sufficiently demonstrate this? Gaining a better understanding of the principles for doing this kind of duty, as well as the required standards of God's house, for doing this duty in the course of studying these professional skills. There are some people who become more resistant the more you try to get them to learn professional knowledge, and think it is impossible to do their duty, even saying, believing in God should be about disengaging from the world of non-believers. So why do we have to learn the skills and knowledge of non-believers? They do not want to learn. This is slothfulness. They do not hold a responsible attitude toward their work. They lack loyalty, and they are unwilling to invest any effort into such a matter. The purpose of learning professional knowledge and skills is to do your duty well. There is a lot of knowledge and common sense you have yet to encounter that you need to learn. This is God's requirement and commission to man. Therefore, learning these things will not be in vain. It is all for the sake of doing your duty well. Some people think that after learning such skills, they will be able to gain a foothold in God's house. Doesn't this way of thinking mean trouble? This outlook is wrong. Is there anyone who is capable of walking this path? The greater the power, the greater the scope of work, the greater the responsibility this kind of person is given, the more danger they are in. How does this danger arise? It is, of course, because they have corrupt dispositions and the disposition of an antichrist. When doing things, they focus only on how to do the task and go through the motions. They do not seek the principles. They do not, through the process of doing their duty, come to understand God's intentions, nor do they come to further understand or further grasp the truth principles. They do not seek the principles, nor do they examine or review the corruption they reveal, the incorrect views that arise in them, or the wrong states they fall into while doing their duty. They focus only on external practices, paying attention only to mastering and equipping themselves with the various kinds of knowledge required in their duty. They believe that, regardless of the line of work one is in, knowledge leads all, that they will become strong and establish themselves in a group if they possess knowledge, and that, no matter the group they are in, those with high levels of knowledge and advanced academic degrees have high status. For instance, in a hospital, the hospital director is generally the very best in all aspects of the profession and possesses the strongest technical skills, and such people think that this is also the case in God's house. Is this way of understanding things correct? No, it is not. This goes against the saying, "The truth reigns in the house of God." Such people believe that knowledge reigns in God's house, that whoever has knowledge and experience, whoever has enough seniority and sufficient capital, will be established in God's house, and everyone must listen to them. Isn't this viewpoint wrong? Some people may unconsciously think and act in this way. They pursue this, and maybe one day they'll end up hitting a wall. Why might they hit a wall? Can a person who does not love or pursue the truth, who utterly ignores the truth, understand themselves?
No.
And while not understanding themselves, they have equipped themselves with a lot of knowledge, paid some prices for God's house, and made some contributions. What have they turned these into? They have turned them into capital. And for them, what is this capital? It is a record of their practice of the truth, evidence of them entering the truth reality and understanding the truth. This is what they have turned these things into. In the heart of every individual, understanding the truth and entering into the truth reality is regarded as a good and positive thing. Of course, this is true in the eyes of this kind of person as well. It is unfortunate, though, that they have mistaken knowledge for the truth. Yet, they still feel good about this mistake. This is a sign of danger. What kind of person would act this way? People who do not have spiritual understanding would all act this way, unwittingly embarking on the wrong path. And once they're on it, you will be unable to pull them back. If you fellowship with them about the truth, point out their states, and expose them, they will not understand. They won't be able to connect this to themselves. This is a serious lack of spiritual understanding. Such a person naturally treats their knowledge, experience, and lessons as the truth. And once they take these things as the truth, a certain situation will eventually arise. This is inevitable. Suppose God says one thing, and this kind of person says another thing. Their perspectives would surely be different. So, whose perspective would this kind of person consider correct? They will believe their own perspective to be correct. So, will they then be able to submit to God?
No.
What will they do? They will cling to their own perspective and deny what God has said. In doing this, aren't they treating themselves as the embodiment of the truth? They think that, just like a Buddhist, they have finally achieved success in their self-cultivation. As they deny God, they make others treat them like God, and think that they have become the embodiment of the truth. How absurd that is. For example, say that someone is particularly proficient in a certain area of knowledge or line of work. Being a layman in this area, I ask them questions related to this field, but when I do so, they begin to show off. What kind of person is this? Tell me, am I wrong to ask them questions?
No.
So, why do I ask them questions? Because some matters are related to work and professions. And since I do not understand them, I should ask someone else. Moreover, I know that they have experience and understand these matters. It is absolutely proper for me to ask them questions. Is my intention and approach correct? There shouldn't be anything wrong with this, right? So, what is the correct way in which that person should treat this matter? They should tell me all that they understand. And then, how should they think about it? What is the right way to think about it? What is the wrong way? How would a normal, rational person think about it? How would someone with the disposition of an antichrist think about it? Some people, upon hearing that I do not understand, say, "Oh, you don't understand. You don't know how hard it was for us to do it. You don't know this, and you don't understand it." As they talk, they begin to show off. And what does this showing off signify? That there is a problem. These people are usually so refined and pious, but why do they suddenly start showing off?
They consider themselves to be the truth because they understand a bit of knowledge and have a bit of experience.
That's right. Previously, when others asked them a question, they didn't think it was a big deal. But when I ask them a question, they think, "Aren't you the truth? Aren't you supposed to understand everything? How could you not understand such a matter? If you do not understand this, then I am above you." They want to show off a bit. Isn't this what they are thinking? They don't feel honored. Instead, a kind of satanic disposition bursts forth from them. Suddenly, they feel that they are so mighty between the earth and the heavens after all. Isn't this a misperception? Aren't these blockheads?
Yes.
I think so too. Only a blockhead would think this way. Don't they just understand a bit about this field? There are a lot of things people don't know. They should have a bit of self-awareness. Some people know a bit about fabrics and can pretty much tell the type of material just by touching it. If you compliment them by saying, "It looks like you know fabrics," they will reply, "That's right. You wouldn't know this since you haven't learned about it. I've learned about it. I'm more of an expert about it than you. I'm not looking down on you. You just really need to study more. Isn't this quite repulsive? Then there are people who do a bit of cooking and start to show off about how many dishes they can make and how many meals they can cook. Some people worked as barefoot doctors in the countryside for a bit. When their brother or sister comes down with a slight illness and asks them to give them a massage, or perform acupuncture or cupping for them, and inquires if that can cure them, they respond, "Do you think this can be treated so easily? You don't understand. Those of us in the medical profession all know that the human body is complex. There are mysteries to God's creation of man. So, it depends on the circumstances whether acupuncture or cupping can be used." In reality, they too know very little. They are unable to clearly explain any medical condition or treat many illnesses. However, for the sake of saving face, they still put on airs, pretend, and act like an expert. The manifestations of these different types of people show that corrupt humans all have the disposition of Satan and the disposition of an Antichrist. Still, there are even more serious cases in which people disguise themselves and pretend to the very end. Regardless of whether others praise them, they harbor a dark thought deep within them. What is this thought? I will never let anyone know my true identity and my true abilities. For instance, if they are only a barefoot doctor, they always try to make others think they are a renowned doctor, never wanting anyone to know that they are a barefoot doctor, or whether or not they can actually treat illnesses. They are afraid of other people knowing the true nature of their situation. And to what extent do they wrap themselves up? To the extent that everyone who comes into contact with them thinks that they never make mistakes and that they are devoid of any shortcomings, that they're proficient in everything they've learned and can do anything that others need. If others ask them whether or not they can cook, they will say they can. When asked if they can prepare a Manchu-Han banquet, though they think to themselves, "I can't do that," they will reply, "Yes," when asked further. Yet, when asked to do it, they will come up with an excuse to decline. Is this not deception? They pretend to know everything, to be able to do everything, to be capable of anything. Aren't they a blockhead? But regardless of whether they are a blockhead or have a bit of caliber, some abilities, or gifts, what is the one thing antichrists have in common? It is their desire to pretend to understand everything, to pretend to be the truth. Though they do not directly claim to be the truth, they want to pretend that they're the reality of all positive things, that they can do everything. Isn't the implication then that they are the embodiment of the truth? They believe they are the embodiment of the truth, that everything they say is correct, that it is the truth. There are some people who are assigned a special task by the above. Upon learning of this, they think to themselves, "This task was entrusted to me by the above. My power has therefore become greater. I will now have the opportunity to demonstrate my talents and power. I shall make those beneath see how formidable I am. When interacting with the brothers and sisters, they order them about, saying, "Go and do this." When asked how to do it, they say, "Are you going to do it or not? If not, I will sort you out." This is an order from the above. Can you afford to offend them by holding it up? When the above seeks accountability, who can afford to bear this responsibility? The brothers and sisters respond, "We simply wish to figure this out and seek principles for doing it, rather than going about it haphazardly and applying any approach we see fit. Everything must be done according to principles, regardless of the matter or how urgent or important it may be. Regardless of who entrusts it, adhering to principles is an immutable truth. This is our duty, and we must be responsible. Seeking principles is what God requires of us. We are seeking and asking for clarification with a responsible attitude. There is nothing wrong with this. You need to clarify this matter for us. Yet they reply, "What is there to say about this matter? Can what the above said be wrong? Hurry up and get it done." To which the brothers and sisters respond, "Since the above said so, we will certainly do it on the double. But can you tell us clearly how it should be done? Are there any specific rules or instructions?" They say, "Do as you see fit. The instructions from the above were not that detailed. Figure it out yourselves." What kind of a person is this? Let's forget for the moment about their motive or root cause for doing this. Instead, let's first examine their disposition. Is this approach of theirs good? How could they have come up with such an approach? Is this a normal approach? It is not normal. Is this a problem with their mental state or their disposition?
A problem with their disposition.
That's right. Their disposition is problematic. There is an expression called biding one's time. It means that in the past, they never had the right opportunity to build upon their power. Yet, now that such an opportunity has presented itself, they will seize it and use it as a pretext to act. What kind of disposition is this? No matter the duty you receive from the above, the principles of your actions cannot change. When the above entrusts you with a job or task, it is merely a commission entrusted to you. It is also your duty to do it. However, after receiving a commission from the above and taking on the job, can you then claim to be an ambassador, plenipotentiary, and expert on the truth? Do you now have the authority to command others and do as you wish? Are you allowed to simply follow your own inclinations, acting as you please according to your own preferences and in your own way? Is there any difference between the above directly entrusting you to do something and doing your usual duty as you normally would? There is no difference. They are both your duty. Since both are your duty, have the principles for doing things changed? No, they have not. Therefore, regardless of whence you receive your duty, the essence and nature of your duty are the same. What do I mean by this? It means that you must act according to principles no matter the duty you are doing. It doesn't mean that just because the above directly entrusted you to do something, you can do it in any way you please, and that anything you do will be right and justified. Even if you have some abilities, can you deviate from the path of seeking the truth principles? You are still a corrupt human being. You haven't become God. You are not in a special group. You are still you, and you will always be human. In the Bible, there are many people who were personally called upon by God: Moses, Noah, Abraham, Job, and many others. There are also many people who have spoken with God. However, not one of these people believed themselves to be a special figure or a member of a special group. Among these people, some personally saw God appear in flames of fire. Others heard God's utterance with their own ears. Some heard messengers convey God's words, while still others personally received God's trials. And was there anyone among them whom God viewed as being different from ordinary humans? No. God does not see it that way. But if you understand it that way, and always view yourself as a special figure, what kind of disposition do you have? It is indeed the disposition of an antichrist, which is terrifying. Even if God laid his hands upon your head and granted you the power to perform miracles backed by divine power, or accomplish certain tasks, you would always remain human. You could not become the embodiment of the truth. What does this mean? It means you will never be entitled to use the name of God to go against the truth and act as you please. That is the behavior of the archangel. At times, God employs special methods or special channels to entrust certain people to do special things, to perform special work, or to convey special events or tasks. This is because God believes these people are capable of taking on such work, that they can complete the work God entrusted to them, that they are worthy of God's trust, and nothing more. Even if they have personally been commissioned by God himself, have heard the utterances from God's mouth, or have spoken with God, they will not become anything different from an ordinary person, nor will they be elevated from being a common created being to a unique or higher created being. That will never happen. Therefore, in the midst of humankind, in the house of God, no matter how special certain things such as one's talents, identity, status, experience, or lessons may be, they cannot be transformed into the embodiment of the truth. If someone so wantonly pretends to be such, then that person is undoubtedly an antichrist. Though some people occasionally reveal such a disposition, they can still accept the truth and repent. Such people have the disposition of an antichrist and walk the path of an antichrist. They still have hope of being saved. However, if someone consistently pretends to be the embodiment of the truth, continues to believe that they are correct, and refuses to repent, then they are a genuine antichrist. Anyone who is an antichrist will not accept an iota of the truth. Even if they are revealed and eliminated, they still cannot know themselves. nor can they be truly remorseful. Some leaders and workers only have the disposition of an antichrist. The principles by which they act and the paths that they choose are the same as an antichrist's. They too lack rationality and do not understand the truth, are unaware of the nature and consequences of their actions, and act recklessly. However, what sets them apart is that some of them can still accept some of what I say. My words can still spur them on and serve as a warning to them. Although they have the disposition of an antichrist, they can still accept some of the truth. They can accept some pruning. They can be truly remorseful and repent to some extent. This distinguishes them from antichrists. These are people who only have the disposition of an antichrist. There is a commonality between having the nature essence of an antichrist and having the disposition of an antichrist. They are basically the same, with the common trait between an antichrist and someone with the disposition of an antichrist being that they both have an antichrist's disposition. However, some of these people can accept the truth and show genuine remorse. Such a person is not an antichrist, but rather is someone with the disposition of an antichrist. This is the difference between an antichrist and those with the disposition of an antichrist. Anyone who cannot accept even a shred of the truth and lacks true remorse is a genuine antichrist. Anyone who can accept the truth and has true remorse is someone with the disposition of an antichrist and can be saved. You should be able to clearly discern between these two types of people and not make blind judgments. Which type are you? Some people may say, "Why do I feel as though I'm the same as an antichrist?" There doesn't seem to be any difference. This feeling is accurate. There is no obvious difference. If you can accept the truth and show true remorse, then that is the only difference. It is also a difference in terms of humanity. That is, an antichrist is an evil person. A person with the disposition of an antichrist, on the other hand, is not an evil person. They just have a corrupt disposition. That is the only difference. There is no difference in their corrupt dispositions. They are all the same in this regard. This is a commonality they all share. The various conditions of corrupt humanity exposed by God's words are completely accurate and do not deviate from reality in the slightest. When God's chosen people read God's words, they all feel the same way. They all share the same understanding, differing only in the depth of their experiences. They all recognize their own arrogance and lack of reason. They are all able to realize they have too many corrupt dispositions, that Satan's corruption of humankind runs too deep, and that it is not easy for God to save humankind. Though so much has been said, there is still more to say. They all recognize that humankind is poor and pitiful, blind and ignorant. They are all aware that it is Satan who has corrupted humankind too deeply, that the root cause of humankind's corruption and wickedness lies in Satan's corruption and control of humankind. After being corrupted by Satan, humankind became tainted with Satan's poison, thereby developing the disposition of Satan and losing the rationality, conscience, and reason of normal human beings. People lack the ability to distinguish between right and wrong. If God had not established laws for humankind, people would not know whether it is right or wrong to hit or kill someone, or to steal or be promiscuous. They would believe their actions to be justified and that they should act in such a manner. However, after God promulgated laws and commandments, people became aware that doing these things was a sin. Their rationality became a bit more normal. Of course, this was only the most superficial level of rationality, which would naturally become more profound once they understood the truth. Now, if people are able to further understand various truths, to know themselves, find their proper place, and accurately measure the extent of their own caliber, perception, and ability to comprehend the truth, and if they are also able to use the truth as a standard and rely on God's words to figure out such things as which of the various attitudes that corrupt human beings hold toward God are positive and which are not, and which are notions and imaginings, and which accord with the truth, then their rationality will become even more normal. Therefore, only the truth can give people a new life. However, if you equip yourself with knowledge, emphasize certain practices, and always show off, always exhibit yourself, and always flaunt that little bit of obscure, insignificant knowledge or learning, and do not pursue the truth, will you be able to obtain this new life? No, that would be delusional. Not only will you not obtain it, you will lose the opportunity for salvation, and that is very dangerous. Each of you has listened to many sermons on the truth, and you now, more or less, have some discernment toward various kinds of people. Although you can discern evil people and bad people, you still cannot discern false leaders and antichrists. Now, God's house is gradually cleansing away from the church all those who do not accept the slightest bit of the truth, who still act recklessly and disturb and disrupt the work of God's house. This shows that God's work has reached this stage, and God's chosen people are beginning to awaken. When I came into contact with certain people in the past, I always sensed there was a kind of odor emanating from them. What kind of odor? It was just like the odor of wild beasts and ferocious animals who would bristle their fur and howl before one even got close to them. Human beings also exhibit certain behaviors similar to animals. How do these behaviors come about? They come from the corrupt satanic dispositions that people possess. What do I mean by odor? I mean that you do not see sincerity when you look into their eyes. Instead, you are met with a blank, wandering gaze. They feel they are unable to gauge you, and so their eyes wander when looking at you. You cannot detect any candor in the words they speak either, because deep down they have none. What do I mean when I say they have no candor? I mean that no matter whom they interact with, there is a defensive barrier deep within them. You can perceive this defensive barrier by the look in their eyes, the tone of their voice, and their manner of speaking. It is the kind of odor they have. It gives one the feeling that though they have heard many sermons, they still do not understand the truth, nor have they embarked on the path of salvation. No matter how you fellowship with them about the truth or expose humankind's corrupt disposition, no matter how sincerely you treat them, provide for them, shepherd them, or help them, you will not earn a sincere attitude from them. So, what lies within them? Guardedness, doubt, these are the most common. Moreover, there is also a kind of self-protection and a desire to always be thought highly of. Therefore, their words, the look in their eyes, their facial expressions, they all reveal something quite unnatural. That is, what you perceive from their eyes and expressions is different from what they are thinking deep down. In short, regardless of whether a person is timid, or cautious, or has difficulties within them, if you cannot see their candor, wouldn't that be problematic? Indeed, it is a problem. So, how can we tell? We can tell from their behavior or the manner in which they speak. They do not say what's on their mind. Rather, they choose words they think are appropriate and fellowship with you about things they have already considered. This is a self-defense tactic of non-believers. Whenever something befalls them, they first bristle up like a hedgehog, protecting themselves. Their truth, their abilities and talents, the mistakes they've made, their bewilderment, even their deception and hypocrisy, are all wrapped up in their spines, kept out of sight from the outside world, kept out of sight even from me. They exert a great deal of effort to cover and package themselves, and also to protect themselves. Where do these things come from? Humankind acquired these things after being corrupted by Satan. In the beginning, after God created Adam and Eve, He led them to live in the Garden of Eden. He told them which fruits from which trees they could eat, and which they could not. They were naked and unashamed before God. And what did they think of this? They thought that this was how God created them, that they had whatever God gave them, and that they did not need to hide from God. They never thought of doing that. Therefore, regardless of how they appeared before God, they were always open-hearted. You could see sincerity in their eyes. They had no defenses or protective walls against God deep within their hearts. They did not need to protect themselves before God, because they knew, deep in their hearts, that God posed no threat to them. They were absolutely safe. God would only protect them, love them, and cherish them. God would never harm them. Deep down, this was their most basic and solid thought. But when did this start to change?
When they ate the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil is in fact symbolic. It meant that, starting from the moment that Satan first enticed Eve, they were enticed by Satan little by little, committing sins, doing wrong things, and walking the wrong path. Then Satan's poison entered them. Soon afterward, before the coming of God, they frequently hid from God, not wanting God to find them. Why would they do this? They felt distant from God. And how did this distance come about? It was because they had something different inside of them. Satan gave them certain thoughts and views. It gave them a kind of life, causing them to doubt and guard against God. They then instantly started to wonder whether God would laugh at them upon seeing them naked. Where did this idea come from?
From Satan.
Why did they not think this way before Satan enticed them? At that time, they possessed the most primal life given by God. They were not afraid of God laughing at them, nor did they have such thoughts. Yet, after being enticed by Satan, everything began to change. First, they thought, "We're not wearing anything. Won't God laugh at us? Does this mean we have no shame?" A series of questions arose in their minds. And once these thoughts arose, they could not help but hide from God. They surely thought to themselves, "When is God coming? If God does come, what should I do? I need to hide quickly." They felt the need to always be hiding. Is this a corrupt disposition? Satan's enticement is at the root of this corrupt disposition. When guarding against and hiding from God, would they still trust God in their hearts? Would they still rely on Him?
No.
So, what remained? The only things remaining were guardedness and suspicion, as well as distance, fear, and doubt. All of these came. They even thought, "Would God harm us? We are naked and have nothing with which to defend ourselves. Could God strike us? Could He kill us?" It never occurred to them that their lives were given to them by God, and He surely wouldn't kill them so lightly. Their minds were a blur. They had become confused. Satan's corruption of humankind continues to the present. The attitude of humankind toward God can be seen in people's eyes and has never changed. The sincerity is gone. The genuine faith, trust, and reliance on God are gone. Where does the root of this lie?
In Satan's corruption.
That is right. It lies in Satan's corruption. Satan has harmed humankind terribly. Although people may think that the time before Satan corrupted humanity was pretty good, in reality, when compared to the time after being saved and understanding the truth and knowing God, things back then were still not as good as they are after being saved. If you could choose, which of these scenarios would you choose? Actually, it is not proper for people to choose either one. Humans cannot choose. This is ordained by God. It is humankind's fate. Before being corrupted by Satan, even though people had trust in and relied on God, the first of humankind did not understand the truth and did not know who God was. Nowadays, people at least have a concept of this. They know humankind comes from God, that they are created beings and God is their creator. They know that God is in control of everything. But people at that time did not understand these things. They were quite simple, meaning they were not afraid of God seeing them or laughing at them, and they would turn to God for everything. Their beliefs were as simple as that. Yet, did they know who God was? No. Therefore, all of the work God has done has profound value and major significance for humankind. It is all good. When we talk of the history of humankind's rebellion against God, do you feel quite sad? The once intimate relationship between humankind and God has become so distant. God sincerely protects and loves humanity, yet humans doubt God. They hide and distance themselves from God, even looking upon God as an enemy. It does indeed bring much sorrow to say this, but we can only direct our hate towards Satan. It is Satan who has corrupted humankind so terribly. Though Satan has corrupted humankind to such an extent, God has a way to save humanity. No matter how Satan disturbs, it will not affect God's work of saving humankind. This is God's almightiness, God's authority. Antichrists pretend to be the embodiment of the truth once they have acquired a bit of experience and knowledge and learned some lessons. We've fellowshipped more or less enough about this topic. What information have you gained from it? What truths do you understand?
We should not value knowledge.
This is one aspect. Are there others?
Mankind is never the truth and should not pretend to be God.
Pretending to be the truth is not a positive thing in itself. The truth is not something one can pretend to be. It is the essence of God. God provides you with some truth, and gaining a bit of the truth is already good enough. Yet some people want to become the embodiment of the truth. This is impossible. Such claims are completely unfounded. Moreover, if people want to be saved through believing in God, they must learn to comport themselves in a down-to-earth manner and not pursue perfection. Though the word perfection may exist, the idea of created human beings becoming perfect is untenable. Perfection can only be found in God. Who among human beings who are full of corruption is perfect? Everything God creates is flawless. This is what we call perfection. Consider the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, the fowls and beasts that roam the earth. They are all perfect. Can you find any that are not good? Then there is the biological chain formed by all living things. How perfect it is! Corrupt human beings can only cause destruction, making it imperfect, flawed, and deficient. How selfish and despicable. Everything God creates is good. Leaves on trees come in all shapes. Animals big and small come in all types of builds, each with its own function. God is too considerate of humankind. However, humankind, being corrupted by Satan, has failed to take care of all things. Instead, humankind has ruined things and wasted God's painstaking intention. Human beings have not cherished all of this. Rather, they have vigorously ruined it, squandering and destroying all resources to the extreme. And what is the result of this? What is the ultimate outcome? They reap what they sow. The environment is destroyed. the food chain is disrupted, the air is polluted, and water is contaminated. There is no natural food left. There is not even clean water to drink. Therefore, the concept of perfection does not exist among human beings corrupted by Satan. Any person who, under the banner of pursuing the truth, claims to be perfect or to be seeking perfection, is making a claim that does not hold water. It is a deceptive, misleading lie. And yet such corrupt human beings wish to pretend to be the embodiment of the truth. They have done so many bad things, yet still think they can pretend to be the embodiment of the truth. Doesn't this mean their satanic nature is unchanging? To have no truth at all, yet still wish to pretend to be the embodiment of the truth. How shameless these satanic types are.